Thanks, Chairman. Let me start with offering a little bit of context. This comes from the National Institute of Science, I believe, and it shows the mammal creatures on the Earth measured out by biomass. And if you look here, you see that all the wild mammals on the planet amount to 4% of the biomass of mammals. From field mice to rabbits to deer to elk to tigers and elephants, all of them as mammals, 4%. Cattle alone are 35%. So there are 9 times as many cattle, at least by weight, there's 9 times as much cattle by weight as there is all of the wild animals, mammals, anywhere on the planet together. So what the cattle are doing out there obviously has big effects on our planet. Mr. van der Waal, you have said that livestock emissions make up less than 4% of overall emissions in the US, and that they're declining thanks to improvements in feed and production practices. You've said that US farmers and ranchers have long been at the forefront of climate-smart farming, utilizing scientific solutions, technology, and innovations to raise crops and care for livestock, and that innovations include methane digesters and advances in nutritional balance that lead to lower per unit, and I assume there you mean per animal, GHG emissions. Could you just say a word about what the technologies and innovations are that are proving most effective in reducing methane emissions from livestock?
Well, thank you, Senator. Just to comment on part of your question, when I talk about—
Don't comment too long, because I'm on a clock here, so
Sure.
I'd really like you to answer my question.
I understand. What I mean by reduction in per unit is per unit of production. So like in a dairy cow, that would be per gallon of milk or per pound of milk.
Got it.
So in regard to emissions, the anaerobic digesters that people are putting in, that energy is being used actually to generate electricity for farms, those kinds of things, so we're not pulling on the grid. There are technologies such as varieties of corn that can be fed to livestock that are more efficient, produces less methane, greenhouse gases.
Do algal and seaweed supplements do the same thing?
I'm sorry?
Do algal and seaweed supplements in feed do the same thing?
I can't answer that for sure. I'm not an expert on that.
All right. Well, I just wanted to flag for you that the Growing Climate Solutions Act was a very bipartisan measure. And as it gets implemented by the Department of Agriculture, my sort of nutshell version of it is that the equivalent of a farm agent can go out to a farmer and say, here's the stuff that you can do that will reduce either CO2 or methane emissions. And I've got the science behind me so that I can put a number on that. And then I can give you basically a good housekeeping seal of approval for those savings. And then you can take that and get credit for reducing your emissions. Is that the kind of incentive that you think the American farming community would welcome as we try to solve together the problem of climate change?
Yeah, certainly incentives are much better than a stick. If it's economically viable, or if somebody can finance it to show that it will be economically viable at some point, those are the things farmers are looking for. Certainly we want to do the right thing for the right reasons, and we want to do that, these environmental things, because they're the right thing to do.
Well, the Farm Bureau supported it, and I appreciate that very much. And also, I'll just give Mr. Walk a chance to respond as he may wish in my remaining 30 seconds.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. Just 2 clarifications. One, I just want to emphasize that the Clean Air Act permitting program that is the subject of the livestock bill imposes no emissions limitations, none whatsoever. So any discussion here of concerns over emissions limits and emission standards being imposed, they just don't arise under that program. It's a program to compile pre-existing requirements. There may not be any. And it also has some monitoring to provide for public awareness. The second clarification I'd just like to offer is that as my testimony details in written form, EPA has never brought an enforcement case against a company that sells products just for racing cars. Okay, so what Mr. Brown is talking about, you know, his suppliers are...
Would you say that again?
EPA has never brought an enforcement case against a manufacturer that sells products exclusively for racing cars. They are bringing cases against device manufacturers that are selling their products to the general public that end up on roads illegally in the hundreds of thousands.
All right, thank
so, you know, Mr. Brown is buying products from, you know, the top racing car companies, manufacturers in the world, and they have not been the subject of enforcement any more so than race car drivers have. None.
Thank you.